Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the From the Bench podcast for December the 26th, 2019, the final podcast of 2019. I'm going to go ahead and go over the Week 17 picks with playoff implications and so forth. The Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be playing Bengals by 2.5. The over-under is 44.5. I go ahead and I probably take the under in this case, and I would go ahead and favor the Cleveland Browns. Chicago at Minnesota. Minnesota coming off a devastating Monday night loss, 23-10 to the Green Bay Packers. The Vikings are favored by 1, and the over/under is 36.5. Go ahead and take the Vikings in this game. And the over at 36.5. Indianapolis at Jacksonville. Jacksonville favored by 3.5. The over/under is 43. Go ahead and take the Colts in this game and take the over. Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is favored by 1.5. 47.5 is the over/under. Go ahead and take the Buccaneers and the over in this case. Atlanta finishing up on the road. Had a reasonably good second half. I'm not sure it's enough for Dan Quinn to keep his job, however. So go ahead and take the Buccaneers and the over at 47.5. Washington at Dallas. Key NFC East clash. Dallas still trying to recover from a devastating 17-9 loss last week. Dallas is favored by 10.5. I go ahead and take the over at 44.5, although I'm not sure if I would take the 10.5. Probably something less than that, maybe about a 7. 10.5 seems a bit excessive as far as the number of favored points for Dallas. New Orleans at Carolina. New Orleans favored by 13. 46 is the over/under. I would go ahead and take the over in this game, and I would favor New Orleans. Philadelphia and New York. Giants favored by 4.5, and I would go ahead and take the over at 45. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. The Ravens already wrapped up home field. They are a +2. 37.5 is the over/under. Pittsburgh is in playoff mode desperation. So go ahead and take the Ravens and the 2 at this point. The Jets and the Bills. Bills favored by 1.5 at home. 36.5 is the over/under. Go ahead and take the over in this game. I do believe Buffalo will close out the season with a win. Miami at New England. New England, I don't know if they're going to play their starters. Not sure about who's available, who's not going to be available. Patriots favored by a pretty hefty 15.5. The over/under is 44.5. I'm not real sold on the New England Patriots offense, especially the receiving core. Not up to the usual Tom Brady, Bill Belichick standards. Go ahead and take the Patriots in this game. I don't expect the Dolphins to do anything other than lose this game. I'm not sure I take the 15.5, though. Probably more along the lines of 10 or so. Green Bay at Detroit. Green Bay favored by 12.5. The over/under is 43. Go ahead and take the over in this game. Matthew Stafford not playing. Go ahead and take the Packers to win this game. Tennessee and Houston. Wrapping the Texans favored by 3.5. The over/under is 44.5. And I would look to take the Texans and the over at 45.5. Sorry about the misspeak in this case. The Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs favored by 8.5 at home. Over under 44.5. Go ahead and take the over. I would expect the Kansas City Chiefs to win this home game. And effectively, the next thing the Chargers are looking for is whether they're going to retain their quarterback, Phillip Rivers, and or their coach, or their coach at this particular point in time. The next game, the Cardinals and the Rams, the former NFC champions, will not qualify for the playoffs. The Rams favored by 7.5. The over/under is 48.5. Go ahead and take the over and the Rams in this game to close it out. The Raiders and the Broncos going to close the season where they started it. Broncos favored by 3.5. The over/under is 41. Go ahead and take the over, and I would go ahead and take Denver in the home game. Drew Lock looking pretty impressive as far as his last few games. So maybe John Elway has finally found his quarterback of the future. But we will see that. San Francisco at Seattle. Seattle favored by 3. The over-under is 47. The NFC West champion division championship is on the line on the evening game, 5:20 p.m. Pacific time on NBC. Go ahead and take the Seahawks in this game. I do believe they'll be winning the division. They could finish 1, 2, 3, or 5 in the playoff seedings. It's all about playoff seedings in the NFC, so we will see about that. At this particular point in time, I'm Mark Janish, wishing you a happy new year. We'll be back in January with a fresh podcast. I want to wish everyone a happy new year, and everyone who's celebrating Hanukkah, the Jewish community, a happy Hanukkah. We've survived another Christmas, a very wet Christmas here in this area of Southern California. But happy year along. Thank you for listening on Spotify, Stitcher, and we will be back next week with more on the aforementioned playoffs. We're going to talk about who landed where, what seedings landed where. For right now, I'm Mark Janish, wishing you a very pleasant day, evening, or morning, wherever you're listening to this podcast. I want to give a shout out to folks in Hong Kong, folks in the Netherlands. We see you. We thank you for visiting the website. We'll go ahead and we have some more news about who's taking over the website, and as far as maintenance improvements, some things need to change with that. We'll have more information on that in the coming days. For right now, I'm Mark Janish. Thank you for listening to the From the Bench podcast. And until next time, wishing you the very best 2020 and the very best in your sporting endeavors. For right now, I'm Mark Janish, wishing you a very pleasant day, evening, or morning here. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk soon.